Welcome to episode 39 of this chess puzzle adventure series starring Bobby Fischerman, Average Joe, and Peter Potzer. Previously, Peter Potzer and Average Joe had met the wolf, and the wolf had taken Peter Potzer and left Average Joe standing there unsure of what to do next. Average Joe decided that he needed to get help, and so he just started walking. He chose a road and started walking. What he didn't realize was that he actually had started going south towards the Lost Ruins. Not long after, he eventually made it to the entrance to the Lost Ruins, but there was a man standing there who said, "Hold up, you can't pass. I'm the gatekeeper, and nobody gets in here unless you can first solve my puzzle." Now, Average Joe, as you know, 1400 rated, was not feeling very confident. He wasn't sure what to do when all of a sudden behind him, he heard footsteps. He turned around, and to his surprise, he saw Bobby Fischerman walking up to him. They both were surprised to see each other, but Bobby immediately said, "Where's Peter Potzer?" Average Joe explained what had happened and said he needed Bobby's help to get into the Lost Ruins so they could find somebody to help. Bobby said, "Unfortunately, I have lost 90% of my rating, and I don't think I'm going to be able to help you much." Joe had a moment of panic, but then he remembered what was in his pocket. He reached in and he pulled out the red pill. He gave it to Bobby and he said, "Take this right away." Bobby Fischerman took the pill and Joe said, "Do you feel any different?" Bobby said, I don't think so. But they said, "Let's go ahead and test it out." And they asked the gatekeeper to give them the puzzle. And here's the position that the gatekeeper presented to them. Here's the position that the gatekeeper presented to them. It's white to play and win. White's pawns are going forward in this direction. Black's pawn is going this way. Before I say anything else, if you would like to pause, what's the winning move for white? There is only one winning move in this position. Well, if you had a chance to look at that, the winning move in the position is probably a mind-boggling move at first because it's not going to make a lot of sense. Bishop to e7, the only winning move. Now, to understand why that's the winning move, you have to understand what's going on in this position. Of course, the rook is generally better than the bishop. Black also has their own passed pawn. But what white does have are these two passed pawns, and this g pawn over here is actually pretty close to becoming a queen. The problem, though, if you just try to push it right away and use the king to help get a queen, is that black simply slides the rook over. Yes, you can bring your king up to defend, but what black is going to do is simply start pushing this pawn. And yes, you can get a queen and force black to sacrifice the rook. But now black simply camps their king on f5, and they're going to start pushing this pawn all the way. And eventually what's going to happen is you're going to have to give up your bishop. Otherwise, the pawn's going to just keep going and get a queen. But as soon as you do, black simply takes the pawn. And because they've kind of boxed out your king by putting their king on f5, you have no easy path for your king to jump around and defend the pawn. It would just take too many moves to walk all the way over here to get to where you could defend the pawn. And of course, the bishop has to leave at some point to capture black's pawn. So because of that, it's just going to be a draw if you try to do that. And the same kind of thing would happen if you played, let's just say, king to f7, right? Planning to support the pawn with, your king. Black's going to plant their king on f5. And then whenever you go here, the rook comes over and it's going to sacrifice, and we have the same exact situation. So bishop to e7 is a very interesting move because if black tries to do the same thing, bring the rook over, now you have a nice move, white to play and win. You got a chance to look at that. The move is bishop to g5. And this is actually a common idea that you want to keep in mind in rook endgames. Whenever you're trying to push a pawn and your opponent has a rook that's trying to stop you, if you can block it off with a piece in between, a lot of times that's the most effective way to allow your pawn to become a queen. Notice how now the rook has no way to get there, right? You're just going to push this and get a queen. Yeah, the king could try to chase you, but it's too late. And next move, you get the queen. There's nothing that black can do. So that's kind of the point behind bishop to e7. Now, another interesting point here is that if black plays a move like, let's just say rook to b2, trying to come down this way, well, you could still play g7, and when they do, guess what? Bishop to d8. Again, same idea. You block off the rook from getting to that square. So you block it off this way, or you block it off this way, depending on what black is going to do. So very nice feature about this bishop to e7 move. However, black has a couple of other things that they can try, and the first thing is they just snag the pawn on f4. And now you probably can see the problem is that you no longer have the pawn defending the g5 square for your bishop. So with that in mind, it's white to play and win. Only one winning move. What is it? You had a chance to look at that. The move is, wait for it, bishop to g5 check. And I know you're like, Nelson, you just said you can't go there because it's not defended anymore, right? What are we doing? The point is we're sacrificing the bishop to lure black's king to g5. Why? Because once black's king is on g5, it blocks his own rook from coming here. And we're simply going to push our pawn and get a queen. And of course, if you don't take it with your king and you just move somewhere, well, we're still going to push our pawn, and we still have it blocked off. If you try to go here, you're too late. You simply get the queen. And also, like I mentioned before, if you try to, some trick like this to skewer the king and the queen, well, again, the bishop can block. Okay, so that also saves the position for white. So with that in mind, black has to take the bishop. And when you push, there's only one last try for black here. They play rook to e2, check. Now it's white to play and win. What move should you play? If you had a chance to look at that, the move here is king to d7. Now, really, you could play any move and still win, but eventually you would have to come back to this plan. And the plan is this: king to d7. Black, of course, is going to keep checking you because what else can they do? King to c7. You don't want to allow the rook to come down here, so you have to stay kind of on the back there to control that. They're going to keep checking you. And all you're going to do is go over here, and now it's white to play and win. What's the winning move? Well, if you had a chance to look at that, hopefully you didn't say capture the pawn, because that's actually how you lose the game, because the rook jumps down, they come over, they take your pawn, and then you just lose. But if you play king to a7, black's own pawn is in the way from them putting you in check, and now they have no more tricks up their sleeve to stop you from getting the queen. And this is a winning position for white. So it goes back to that incredible move at the beginning, which looks kind of weird. Bishop to e7, getting ready to block off the rook, even at the cost of just sacrificing it, because you don't really care. The only thing that matters is that the pawn becomes a queen. And this was the only way to do it. But when Bobby Fischerman looked at the position, he immediately saw bishop e7, and he immediately saw the ideas of blocking off the rook, whichever way that it went, and he immediately also saw the bishop sacrifice, and he solved it perfectly. And at the end of the puzzle, he told Joe, "I feel like I'm back to my normal self." And the red pill had worked and restored Bobby Fischerman's rating to 2,800. Having solved the puzzle, the gatekeeper let them into the Lost Ruins, and they set out looking for help for Peter Potzer, and that's where we'll pick up our story next time. Thank you guys for watching, and happy adventures on the chessboard.